Question 7, these are, once they bring us into differentiation territory, this is 100% type of thing. Differentiation is beautiful maths. There's no trick in differentiation. If you know the method, everything is straightforward, everything is easy. You know what I mean? Here they're saying, find y prime by applying the product rule. We are doing question 7, we do a, I. Okay, a is I and the I. So a, let's put 7a. It's saying y is equal to 3 minus x squared multiplying x cubed minus x, like this. Okay, no problem. So now they're saying find y prime by 1 applying the product rule. So we can say that, remember the product rule says y prime is equal to, you'll be having a function, y is equal to uv. When do we use the product rule? When you have two things multiplying each other. Okay, like to say x sine x, and you want to find them. You have x and you have sine x. These are two different things. So this will be your u, this will be your v, like that. Or you can have x then ln x, okay? Or you can have simpler, which is these two. They are the same type. For us, when we had x and ln x, this was polynomial, this is trig, okay? But those are different types of functions. But in here, we have this, which is 3 minus x squared is a polynomial because we just have x and some powers and numbers. That's a polynomial. When we have x and some powers and numbers, it's a polynomial again. So we want to find. So what we just do is you go one of the things that are multiplying, you call it u, the other one you call it v. Then the derivative will now be, you bring the second one as it is, you multiply by the derivative of the first. So it's going to be u prime times v, then plus, you now bring the first one, then multiply the derivative of the second. So that is what you do. Okay, that is how you do it. You can even say that it's v times u prime if you want. You get it? You can say that it's v times u prime. So it's like you bring the second, we can put it like this, to say bring the second, multiply by the derivative of the first, then plus, remember to say plus, bring the first, then multiply by the derivative of the second. So second times derivative of the first plus first times derivative of the second. That's what you do. So you'll be having it like this. So you can say now that you have y is equal to 3 minus x squared multiplying x cubed minus x. So you can now say let u be equal to the first, which is 3 minus x squared, and v be the second, which is x cubed minus x. Now you can find u prime, which is the derivative of this first, which is going to be, what is the derivative of 3, 0? Derivative of negative x, drop down the power, it's 2, reduce it by 1x. Then v prime is going to be drop down the power 3, reduce it by 1x squared, minus derivative of x is 1. Okay, so it'll be 3x squared minus 1. Then now we can say that y prime is going to be equal to v times u prime plus u times v prime, which is going to be, what is v? X cubed minus x, and it's going to multiply u prime. What is u prime? Negative 2x. Okay, then you say plus. Now what do you have now? You're going to have u, what is u? 3 minus x squared, and what is it going to multiply? It is going to multiply v prime, which is 3x squared minus 1. So you have to find these things first. You have to find them, these first, then you can be able to use them. You must also remember the formula. You have to. Product rule, you should remember the formula. Quotient rule, you should remember the formula. Quotient rule, you can see it in question 8 already when things are dividing and they want derivatives. So we should be able to do that as well. And we should also know the chain rule. Okay, when you have a function of a function, composite function. So either way, let's go through this. Now we're going to say this negative 2x, remember it's multiplying this. So negative 2x times x cubed is going to be negative 2, then x to the 4. Then negative 2x times negative x is now plus, there is going to be a 2, then x times x becomes x to the 2. Okay, then we can now say all plus, now we put a big bracket so we get this. What is 3 times 3x squared is going to be 9x squared, okay? The 3 and 3 multiply, we can just put it as 9x squared. Then what is, if there was a minus here, we'd have to put a big bracket, okay? But since it's a plus, it's just fine. 3 by negative 1 becomes negative 3. Negative x squared times 3x squared, your answer is negative, then 3 comes, then x squared times x squared is x to the 4. Then negative x squared times negative 1, it's plus x squared times 1, it's x squared. There we go. So now it is going to be equal to negative 2x squared minus 3x squared. You put the coefficients in the calculator. You say minus 3 minus 2, you get negative 5 of x to the 4. Okay, we're dealing with x to the 4. Negative 2 minus 3 x to the 4, you get negative 5 x to the 4. You just put the coefficients, which is the numbers in front, minus 2 and minus 3. in the calculator. Now we do for x squared. We're going to have 2x squared, right? You're going to have 2x squared here. And then we have an x squared at the end there. So 2x squared plus x squared. So you say 2 plus 1, you get 3x squared. Then now we have, there's another 9x squared here. So it's plus this other 9x squared, which becomes 12x squared. So we have 12x squared. Okay. Then we have minus 3, which just becomes minus 3 like this. All right. So now, is this going to be your final solution? Yes, this is going to be your final solution. Now let's do part I. They said by multiplying factors to produce a sum, and then we'll differentiate. Now that part 2, we'll do it in the second video. Goodbye for now.